Hello everyone and welcome to my first YouTube video. I'm very excited to be bringing you this. Not only this video, this entire channel. There's a lot of stuff that we have to cover. A lot. I wasn't even sure where to start, but I figured it out. So don't worry, this video will actually go somewhere. I've been told for a long time, everyone always says to me, you need your own podcast, you need your own YouTube channel. I'm not sure if the stories that I talk about on to my friends that prompt them to say that to me are appropriate for a YouTube channel, but we'll see how we go. So if you don't know much about me, my name is Annie. I live in Sydney, Australia. I compete in bodybuilding currently in the IFBB wellness division, but previously I was competing as a powerlifter in GPC. I competed in the IPF, I did some WRPF competitions, I competed at Pro Raw. It's been a long competition history for powerlifting. I think I started in 2012 through to 2017. So I made the switch over to bodybuilding recently, which has been a really interesting journey. So I wanted to talk about that kind of stuff and give you some insight into what it is like for someone who's got that powerlifting background to come into competitive bodybuilding. Not only do I have the powerlifting background, but I also work in the industry. I've been working as a powerlifting coach for a really long time. So I've got a lot of insight into it from that perspective as well. The other thing that I wanted to definitely talk to you about in that whole context is my connective tissue disorder, Ehlers Danlos Syndrome, which one of the hallmark features of it is joint hypermobility, which a lot of people think is doesn't really line up very well with strength training, which in some ways it lines up surprisingly well in the sense that your joints get a lot stronger with strength training, but in other ways it doesn't really line up in the sense that your strength training is made a lot more difficult by having joint hypermobility. So maybe I can share some tips and tricks for anyone following who has Ehlers Danlos or has joint hypermobility or knows someone who falls into either of those categories and wants to get some help with their strength training and getting strong, building muscle, competing in bodybuilding, competing in powerlifting, and all of that jazz. Now, if we have any room left over, any time left over, maybe I can fill in some juicier details and take some of my friends' requests for the all the fun stories that I've been told should be put together into a YouTube channel. But I'm thinking an anonymous blog might be a better idea for that. Some of those dating stories just shouldn't be shared to the world. But anyway, the first topic I wanted to cover was a Q&A, and this Q&A comes from a thread that I posted in an Ehlers Danlos athletes group on Facebook after my competitions, where I was basically just saying, hey guys, I just did this, it's super exciting, just posted some photos, and I got a whole bunch of questions. So I wanted to answer some of those questions here for you. I'm just going to get straight into it because otherwise I'm going to ramble. Now, the first question that someone asked was in response to the post that I actually put up. And in that post, I mentioned that I don't really like talking about my condition to people who don't have my condition. And the person asked the question, why do you hate talking about Ehlers Danlos in fitness circles? Which is, I think, the exact language that I used. This one's really hard. So for those of you who don't know about the condition Ehlers Danlos, it can be pretty debilitating. And by pretty, I mean extremely debilitating. It can put people in wheelchairs. It can, I could qualify as being disabled. I could qualify as going on the NDIS, which is in Australia, the National Disability Support Scheme. I could have a disabled wheelchair on my car. And it's not that I think that I'm better than people who do that. It's just that I have the means currently to support myself without those things. So, and also it just seems like I put that in the too hard basket to go down that path because it seems like a lot of paperwork. But anyway, it's a pretty hardcore condition. It's not a small thing. I make jokes about it. I make light of it. Most people who meet me wouldn't even know that I have it unless I bring it up. But I find when I'm talking about this in Ehlers Danlos contexts, as in people who don't know about the condition, I have to talk a lot about how bad it is, how much it sucks to have it, just to give people context on what it is that we're actually talking about. And I find that takes all of the attention away from whatever else it is that I'm talking about. So if I go to a doctor and I have to explain to them what Ehlers Danlos is, which actually does happen, some doctors don't know about it, that then takes away from whatever it is, the topic that I'm come to actually see them about. And they in their mind are like, this person's a hypochondriac, this person wants me to know about their condition. If I'm talking in a fitness circles, if I'm talking to my coach, and I'm lucky that my coach is really understanding. Every coach that I've had has been really understanding. If I was talking to a coach who didn't understand and didn't take the time to listen about this stuff, I would have to spend so much time explaining the condition. They would think that I was a hypochondriac. They would think that all I like to do is complain. I'm just trying to give you context. Like, okay, let's give a hypothetical. Imagine you have no legs. You've got your both legs missing. And you're doing online coaching with someone and they're giving you prescriptions of exercises like the squat, bench, and deadlift. And you're like, hey man, I got no legs. And they just don't listen. They don't hear that. And they keep giving you these exercises and you're like, dude, I don't have legs. And they keep giving you these exercises and you're like, I'm paying for this service. And they're giving me squats and I physically can't squat. It's not that I don't want to squat. It's not that I'm too scared to squat. It's not that I'm demotivated. It's that I physically can't squat. That's how it is with a lot of the stuff with mine. I'm trying to explain to people, I can't eat this food. I can't do this exercise. I can't, but the list of things that I can't do is so long and so weird. And if you don't understand biology and you don't understand what collagen is and what collagen does in the body, it seems like I'm just making things up and pulling things out of the hat. So yeah, I find that the amount that I have to talk about these problems is just so much that it puts it in the forefront of these people's minds. And if they only understood and just knew and I didn't have to explain it, it would be fine. And we could just exist in this world where they know that I've got this thing that they have to work around and that I have to work around and we don't have to talk about it. But I just feel like I need to provide so much context to them that it makes it seem like it's so much more important than it is. It takes away from all of my other achievements. It makes them think that I'm playing the victim card, which is awful that they think that, but they do. And they may not even understand at the end of it. And why would they? Like, they don't know the role of collagen in the body. They don't know what it feels like. People who are close to me understand everything that I've had to get past to achieve what I have achieved. But to explain that to people, it's too much work. And through that process, I'm talking about these awful things that are happening to me and I'm ruminating over them, and that doesn't do good things to my psychology. So I find that it's better to just talk to people who I know will understand and who I know really care, because I think that it's really important to be vulnerable, but be vulnerable to people who it's in a safe place to be vulnerable to. And I've found that sometimes it doesn't feel very safe to open up to some people. So, and I guess I've just struggled to find my voice in a way that I'm happy with the way that I'm projecting myself and communicating my things that I've had to overcome. I'm not someone who likes to talk about things from the stance of I don't know. It's something I struggle with a lot. I don't like, it's not that I don't like the attention, it's just, or the sympathy, but I've struggled to find my voice and the way that I want to express it. So I guess that's maybe what this YouTube channel's for, hey? And yeah, that's that. All right, so the next question is equipment. What kind of equipment can people with Ehlers Danlos use, or joint hypermobility? So this is kind of universal. This is something I'd say for everyone. For lifting, a good pair of shoes. So you can have flat shoes for squats. You can squat in flats. You can squat in the heel raised shoes for squats. They're a really good option. Otherwise, you just want something flat, hard soled. The only time you would want to use something with a cushioned heel is for maybe bench press, if that's comfortable for you. So footwear, then you've got knee sleeves. Knee sleeves are a great option for people with bad knees, but they're also a good option for basically anyone. So they keep your knees nice and warm. They keep your knees, they add a little bit of external feedback. So it's kinesthetic feedback to help guide your knees into the right position during a squat. So knee sleeves for things like squats, lunges, leg press, great option. Moving up, we've got a powerlifting belt. So the powerlifting belts are the ones that are the same thickness all the way around. You can use a buckle or a lever, and they're a really good option. And if you use them properly, they can actually help you to brace better. A lot of people think that they're just a band-aid and that they cover up a weak core, but they can actually help you to strengthen your abdominal and core muscles in the movements if you use it to teach you how to brace. Then we've got wrist wraps. These are a really helpful thing for anyone with joint hypermobility. Anyone in general, but joint hypermobility in particular, because our wrists tend to suck. For squats, bench, and anything where you think, oh, I get a bit of wrist pain, low bar squats, wrist wraps are your friend, 100%. And then you can use lifting straps if you find that grip is an issue as well. So they're the ones that tie around your wrist and have a little strap that you can tie to the bar. So they're the things that I would recommend for someone, anyone really, but Ehlers Danlos in particular. So the next question is, how do I manage recovery? I'm pretty good at this actually. I've learned if I don't let my body rest, it will force me to rest. If I start to feel a bit sick, I pull right back. I give myself extra sleep. I rest as much as I can. I've got a really, really great job where I can work from home. So I do more of that, which I'm really grateful to have. Pain and energy levels. I don't really take painkillers much. I find that Panadol doesn't do much for me. Codeine is hard to get, and Nurofen or any kind of anti-inflammatories tend to irritate my stomach. So I avoid painkillers. I find that not on principle, just because it's difficult for me to actually use them. But I actually find lifting is one of my best pain managements. A good bed and lifting. Using targeted strength exercises and being really particular with the way that I warm up and do my muscle activation exercises has probably been the best thing that I've found for pain management. I've got a few really good people in my corner. I've got a guy called Shart, who's a sacroiliac joint specialist. He's amazing. And I've got Andrew Locke as well. And they really help to guide me through any pain and injuries that I do have. And they're the first people that I always talk to whenever I've got any injuries or pains. How did I adapt a normal bodybuilding routine for Ehlers Danlos? This is a really good question. So, number one, always warm up for each session and do a very, very slow and gradual warm up. And by warm up, I don't mean stretch or cardio. I mean targeted muscle activation. So that's the first thing. The second thing is be really careful about going to failure. In bodybuilding training, they talk a lot about training to failure. Take it to mechanical failure, but never past mechanical failure, and not absolute failure. So mechanical failure is where your technique starts to break down. Absolute failure is obviously where you can't do it anymore. You can push some exercises that are like less injury risk or easier to do, like leg extension, hamstring curl. You can push those a little bit closer to failure, but big movements like squats and deadlift, you unless you're extremely experienced, you wouldn't want to be taking those anywhere near failure. There are a few other things that I did, like I can't do lunges, for example. My sacroiliac joint has been really bad this whole prep, and lunges are just out of the question for me. I've started adding them back in now in very, very specific ways, but generally speaking, they're a no-go. So what else have I done? Avoiding any upper trap exercises. My coach and the coaches that I work with here at Base are really good in that they train people for a very structurally balanced physique. So that is the best way to avoid injury. If you're doing bodybuilding well, it can actually be a really great thing for hypermobile joints and Ehlers Danlos Syndrome. I don't think that answers your question very comprehensively, but that's a really in-depth question. If you want to know more, let me know. Did I have any histamine reactions to any show-related products? I don't think I reacted to the tan, and I didn't react to any of the makeup. I was lucky. I do have to take histamine eye drops because my eyes get really red from makeup, but that's about it. And you can actually talk to the people beforehand. So I didn't have a histamine reaction actually, but I had a lot of problems with the tan, a lot of problems, because my skin is obviously extremely pale. The tan went green on me because I eat so much fish, apparently that's a thing. So the tan went green, so they had to put lots and lots of coats on, and I ended up looking really muddy for some of the competitions. So I called up the person beforehand and explained everything. And it took a few goes, and a lot of conversations, but definitely if you're going through someone, call them up first and chat to them. This goes for anyone who's competing. You're paying a lot of money for the tan and makeup and hair and everything. So call them and talk to them about any concerns you have. My goals for bodybuilding all the way, baby. I want to get my pro card, and then I want to compete with the pros. I want to beat the Brazilians. Me, Aussie Annie, wants to beat the Brazilians. for those who don't know, my division in bodybuilding wellness is the Brazilian division. It started in South America and the Brazilian girls dominate it. And I want to prove that you don't have to be South American to have a bootylicious body and excel in the wellness division. But we'll see. We'll see. I do have kind of a timeline because I want to go back to study and I don't think I can do it all at once. So I'm pushing hard. I'm pushing hard. I'm competing at the end of the year and I'm going to go hard. Sacroiliac joint flare-up tips, especially backstage with the posing. So the posing, interestingly, I competed with IFBB Elite and IFBB Pro League. Pro League posing didn't hurt my joints as much as the Elite posing did because of the way that it was twisting. To be honest with you, I didn't actually find that during the competition I had many issues with it. And it was also kind of like, well, it's comp day, I just need to get it done. So I can't really talk from that perspective. Posing, I had to really, I guess, periodize my posing. So I only posed every couple of days, which was a bit annoying, but that's what you have to do. And my posing definitely wasn't where I wanted it to be. But again, it's like that concept of you need to get over the finish line. Like, I had the choice of posing every day, which would flare up my sacroiliac joint, compromise my ability to do cardio, and maybe compromise my ability to compete altogether. Or I could let my posing drop a little bit and focus on everything else. So I went for that and I did a lot of mental rehearsal. So a lot of imagery in my mind. And that sounds really airy-fairy, but it's a very well-proven sports psychology technique that people use to practice when you can't physically practice. So that's another really good tip. I don't even know if we're at the end of the questions, but I think we are. I could go through them again, but look, I think we've covered quite enough. And if I go through this list and find any extra, that's just another video. Let me know if there's anything in particular you want to hear, see, experience, smell. Maybe I went too far then, but let me know if there's anything else that you want to know about. Requests for videos, leave them in the comment box. And you know I'm going to say that you should subscribe because that's just what every YouTuber says. So do that, please. And yeah, talk to you all later. I'm really excited for this. Stay tuned for video number 2.